Let's talk about media convergence. Media convergence is defined by Henry Jenkins as the flow of content across multiple media platforms and the cooperation between multiple media industries. This is where a narrative is told via multiple media forms or where different forms of media techniques overlap. It has led to several successful films, such as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the most successful series converged from comics. The early attempts at video game convergence started around the late 90s. However, these films did poorly. The most likely reason for this failure is that condensing 60 hours of interactive playtime sacrifices many fundamental elements that made the game likeable. But there are exceptions where this has been done successfully. This video essay will argue the techniques that have led to successful movie and video game convergences. One of the most popular plot-focused cinematic video games in recent history was The Last of Us, a game set in a zombie-infested world following protagonists Joel and Ellie on their journey to safety. This game, unlike countless zombie games before it, took the focus away from shooting down zombie hordes to a story told in a cinematic fashion. One of the techniques used to make the game feel cinematic was to use boundaries of a camera.
We make sure to go back in and add flaws.
We keep the confinements of the room so the camera can't go past a certain wall, because then we have this cheated perspective.
The game incorporated lens refocusing and seemingly unintentional camera movements while capturing performances, despite having total freedom in digital world. The animation team chose to stay true to the footage, giving The Last of Us a raw and unpolished cinematic experience. One technique The Last of Us used to emulate cinema is motion capture. Mocap is the recording of a live motion event and translate it into usable mathematical terms by tracking a number of key points in a space. It is then processed into a three-dimensional representation of the performance. The result is a lifelike animation that captures an actor's performance and acting that rivals cinema. This technology was pioneered in films like Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings, with the character Gollum portrayed by Andy Serkis. Andy Serkis says there was probably a time when people in the games industry wanted to emulate films, but now it's very much the other way around. The technology is driven by video games. Many of the tools we use in the film industry have come out of the video game industry. In modern cinema, blockbuster films heavily rely on CGI, with an increasing demand for films of action capable of rivaling video games. Grand Theft Auto or Hitman led to over-the-top films like the Fast and Furious franchise and John Wick. These films aim for a simplistic approach with emphasis on action and stunts. A film that best challenges the video game format is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Scott Pilgrim's comic source material was inspired by classic 8-bit style arcade games. The film reflects this with its visual style, which then inspired the video game spin-off, another 8-bit homage. Most movie-based games often fail, made only to cash in on the film's success. Super Mario Bros., based on a game that provided a limited narrative arc, resulted in its failure. Yet, Scott Pilgrim's Convergence greatly succeeds. Michael Cera's nonchalant performance as Scott Pilgrim is often criticised.
What?
Edelstein says, a different lead might have kept you laughing and engaged. Yet, Scott's blandness reflects a traditional video game protagonist, acting as a vessel to a more interesting world the viewer can experience. Structurally, Scott Pilgrim is a unique film, as it follows many video game tropes. The film aligns itself with the style and structure of a video game rather than a film. Scott faces 7 evil exes, acting as 7 levels, with 7 boss battles. At the end of each, he is rewarded with coins, a Mario-like one-up feature, and more.
Scott earned the power of self-respect.
Throughout each boss battle, the fight sequences are accompanied with bright and flashy visuals which parallel games like Mortal Kombat. To achieve this video game aesthetic, Scott Pilgrim is highly reliant on CGI and its unique editing style. Video game levels often seamlessly transition with very little disruption. Wright's unique transitions cut together 2 scenes without the audience realising. He achieves this through multiple techniques, including obstructing the audience's view to connect 2 shots,
so I told him, you've got a really good sound.
And by matching shot reverse shot in different locations. Finally, he transitions from one location to another via words.
Were you at the show, Scott Pilgrim? Oh, hey, it's tonight. At the...
With their massive influence on audiences, movies and games have converged into successful properties. Techniques like CGI and narrative structure are now essential in producing modern cinema that imitates video games. Video games have converged with cinema via cinematic storytelling and mocap performances. Without this, they wouldn't succeed in telling a compelling story.
Where'd you get it? It's an exclusive club.
Scott Pilgrim and The Last of Us aren't two properties you'd usually associate with each other, but I think it's clear how they can both be looked at as figureheads of media convergence done right.
Hey, ask him how it feels to always get his sloppy seconds.
How does he